Hi there, and thank you for tuning into our video. My name is Hope Dorman, and I'm a member of the industry marketing team here at Houzz. Today, we have a special guest with us, and we'll be discussing what she saw at the 2019 Greenbuild trade show in Atlanta. Today, we are very lucky to have Becky Harris with us. She is the lead Houzz contributing writer and has contributed over 2,000 articles in her over 10 years of writing for us. She was able to attend the show, and we're very excited to hear her thoughts. So, Becky, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So, in today's interview, we are going to cover three main themes, starting with a general recap of the show, then talking about the new products on display, and wrapping up with Becky's thoughts on any emerging trends. So, to kick off our discussion, Becky, I think our audience would love to know what was popular at the show. The expo hall at this show was divided up into pavilions on building performance, human health and wellness, wood, smart energy, and mindful materials. Could you tell me which pavilions that attendees gravitated towards? Where did you see the most interest?
Honestly, it was a pretty even split of people around the entire show. But one booth I'd heard some buzz about before I even saw it was this live moss wall with a mister on it, and it's called the Verdure Wellness Wall. It was 8 feet high and covered in live moss. It had a recirculating pump at the bottom that sounded like a babbling brook, and it was just stunningly beautiful. And then this mister would keep the moss live. And what this does is they did testing that found it reduced carbon monoxide in the room by 225% and reduced harmful airborne particulates by approximately 4,000%. So this stunning, it looked like art, live wall is making the air healthier. It's been used a lot in spas and hotels and those sort of settings, but I could completely see it used at home.
That's really an incredible product. It looks great, and it's definitely, having a great positive impact on the room that it's in. So I'm guessing that was part of the human health and wellness section.
It was, yes.
And why do you think that that particular product drew so much buzz into that booth?
I think it was the stunning beauty of it at first that grabbed your eye, but then when you heard more about what it actually did, you were really taken in by it and wanted to hear more. And I tried to take a picture of it so many times and couldn't get a clear one without people in it because there were just always people sort of buzzing around it.
Yeah, it sounds like a great mix of form and function.
It really was.
And I also know one of the expo hall features was actually a tiny house on the show floor. So can you tell us a little bit more about what you saw there?
Yes, I was so excited to finally get myself inside a tiny house because you see them on TV all the time. You read about them. We've had a bunch of stories on Houzz about them, but I realized I'd never actually set foot in one. So that was fascinating to me. And I have to say, I was very skeptical about how tight and confined it would feel, but I was completely wrong. The one they had a picture window and then a row of clerestory windows, so that completely opened it up. And they had managed to put a full-size range and fridge in it, as well as a full-size bathtub. So I counted at one point, there were 7 of us in there, and it was kind of like a tight little cocktail party feeling, but I didn't feel cramped. I didn't feel claustrophobic. It was really, really neat to experience.
And then for the tiny house, I know, a lot of people do them to be sustainable. So could you talk about anything that you saw in the tiny house that could help make it more sustainable or reduce its carbon footprint?
Well, I think really, for me, the tiny house is more about city codes catching up with this phenomenon because they're a great way to add an adaptable dwelling unit and thus more affordable housing in cities or anywhere really. And I think that is where they can have the biggest impact is helping improve that affordable housing in a pretty simple, ready to go way.
Yeah, that makes sense. If you can make more use of the existing land, of existing yards, that's a way to
Mhm.
do, sustainability in and of itself. And then, of course, we know that one huge draw for any trade show is the educational sessions for people looking to get those CEUs. So I am wondering, could you share with us any valuable information that you picked up from any of the sessions that you attended?
Sure. I mean, I think what the biggest thing that surprised me was just how many great online tools have emerged out of the sustainability movement. So I was trying to keep up with the times on some of the latest ones. And one session I attended was held by mindfulmaterials.com. They are a free library that has over 10,000 products on it that have been vetted by experts for sustainability and healthfulness. So that is a really great resource for pros to have. And another one is the construction company Skanska collaborated with Microsoft to create a new open source tool. It's a calculator for embodied carbon. And that means it measures the emissions associated with building construction, including extracting, transporting, and manufacturing the materials. So that's a really useful tool to have to truly measure just the carbon footprint of a building and the impact that you're having.
That's incredible and super helpful that, our audience will be able to check out those tools and those websites, especially since they're open source, definitely makes a huge difference because I know it can be hard to find that information. So it makes it easier for anyone to be more sustainable on every project that they do.
Yeah, and it was really about collaboration too. Even if you're collaborating with your competitors, we all have the same goal. So with sustainability, so these kinds of online resources really help foster that when people work together.
Now let's dive into the next section and talk a little bit more about the products that you saw at the show. So in keeping with this theme of sustainability, what sort of general innovations did you see?
I think a lot of what I saw was within the little things people can do because I think we tend to get overwhelmed, especially if you're coming from a homeowner's perspective. A lot of what's at the show is commercial for large scale buildings, but a lot of it can also be adapted to single family homes and smaller residential housing. But we tend to think, oh my gosh, do I have to invest in a whole huge solar system and get off the grid? And it can be overwhelming, and then homeowners might just say, oh, forget it. But there's so many small alterations you can make that make a big impact. And so that was something that really hit home with me throughout the show.
And could you maybe share an example of one of those small things that would be easy for someone to take on?
Sure. Okay. So one thing was for water conservation, I'm sure people have started to see these dishwashers with the third rack on the top that holds utensils, but it's also deep enough for ramekins and Tupperware lids and all that kind of thing, measuring cups. And when you have that rack, you can take out that basket that you usually have the utensils in. This frees up about 30% more space. You can load about 30% more products into your dishwasher, which means you're running it a lot less. You probably will go from every day to every other day. And over the course of a year, that can save about 500 gallons of water just by having one extra dishwasher rack. So that's a small thing you can do. And another thing I saw, Bosch has this Fresh by Design refrigerator technology that preserves food better. So that means less food wasted, and it also means less trips to the grocery store where you're using gas and increasing your carbon footprint just getting groceries. So little things like that make a really big impact.
Right. Yeah. I know that those sort of things are great that our design pros can incorporate with their homeowners who have an interest in sustainability but aren't aware. Those sound like really pretty simple fixes, but can save a lot over the course of a year or a couple of years, the life of the product.
Yes, definitely.
So I know we touched on water conservation right there, but I know another main area of focus for pros, homeowners alike is energy conservation. So could you tell me more about what products you saw that could help reduce energy usage?
Yeah, what's interesting is there were some areas I hadn't thought about before, like showrooms that, say you're a carpet company and you need to send all the showrooms hundreds of samples of your carpet in all these different colors and patterns. That's a lot of waste. So Mohawk Flooring actually has new virtual reality technology where they can just show people online and even put those options in a picture of their room, all the thousands of different options in colors and patterns in their carpeting, and eliminate the need for all those little swatches of carpet. That was really interesting. I had never thought about that before. And also, I was really interested in light tunnels. We've featured these on Houzz a couple times. They work similar to a skylight, but they can be extended. It's just a dome, a little dome on your roof, a little glass dome, and then a tube of light that comes in. And the light looks like a light fixture, but it's natural light coming in. And Velux had a model, it's called the Sky Tunnel, and it has an integrated night light that's powered by solar power. And what this means is that because it has that solar component to it, you can get the tax reduction on both the product and the installation. You can get that tax credit, which through the end of this year is 30% off both, just because of that little solar powered night light inside. I thought that was pretty clever. And I also loved seeing those sky tunnels and how they daylight a room. They're great for closets or maybe a bathroom that doesn't have a window, rooms that don't receive any natural light. It's a way to bring natural light in with a pretty small intervention.
That's great. And that Mohawk tool does sound like our Houzz View in My Room tool and our tile estimator. So,
Yeah.
if someone is interested in tile, that's a way to be able to check that out too. So interesting to see how this technology is making it so that way people can perhaps make fewer trips to the store, use less energy. So that's a really interesting innovation.
Yeah, it's sort of those secondary things you don't think about, like how many times you're going to the grocery store and what kind of energy that wastes, not to mention your time. But
Absolutely. And so then now let's go ahead and talk about some of the products that you saw incorporating recycled materials. I know that's a huge focus because there can be waste when we do renovation projects. And so incorporating recycled materials can be a way to reduce the footprint of a renovation project in general. So would love to hear about any of those that you saw at the show.
yes, and this is, the focus was very strong on cradle to cradle, meaning that when someone wait on the line, because a lot of these products are built to last a very long time, durability is a part of sustainability, but that these products are 100% recyclable if people should ever be done with them or a building is demolished. So there were things like acoustical tiles made from 100% recycled newsprint. And then one that really caught my eye, and this should really strike Californians who've suffered so much drought, their Cal Plant is a company that is completing a plant this winter in Willows, California, that makes MDF from rice straw. And why this is important is rice straw is a byproduct from rice fields, and it wastes so much water because after the harvest, they flood the fields to decompose the straw. And in California, where water is extra, extra precious, having CalPlant come in and harvest this byproduct eliminates the need to flood those fields, and that is going to have a huge impact. And so they'll be making non-formaldehyde MDF out of this rice that's composed of this rice straw.
That's incredible. So, makes use of something that already exists, reduces the water usage from flooding the rice field. So hopefully we'll start to see that incorporated in more products coming soon. I think that definitely gives us a great look at the products that were at the show. So now I want to talk about trends. We know that trends are really important to our pros. So can you share what emerging design trends that you saw at this show?
Yes, and a few weeks ago I attended High Point's fall market, so it was really interesting to see this show on the heels of that. At High Point, there was so much nature-inspired design trending, and so the kinds of materials and textures used that were shown at Greenbuild dovetailed really nicely together with that. And for me, I would say the trends you'd see at Greenbuild were all about texture, whether it was natural fiber rugs, solid surfaces made from recycled acrylic, or wall covering composed of sunflower seeds. A standout was wall coverings. There was a company called Fiberworks, and they had this durable commercial grade wall covering made of natural sisal, just like the sisal used in natural fiber rugs. And this product was 100% biodegradable. And it was so durable that it was funny. The guy showed me a picture of it underneath the chair rail, which usually you'd have millwork there to keep kids' grubby hands from mucking up your wall covering, but this stuff can stand up to that. He even ran a pen over it, and the ink didn't even leave a mark. So it can take a lot of abuse, and it's also beautiful and adds texture and warmth to a room. And then another booth I wanted to spend a lot of time in was Cara Green, which is a distributor of a collection of sustainable products. And they carry a line of wall coverings by a company called Organoid. And this is really hard to explain, but they collect things in the forests of the Austrian Alps. So hay and flowers and seed pods, and they create a composite out of it that's on the wall covering. So they're actual flowers and pieces of hay on your walls. There was even a beautiful scent to it. I don't know how long that lasts, but it was amazing. So that was kind of a fun find for me.
Those definitely sound really interesting. I think a lot of our pros will be really interested in researching some of these further.
Yes.
Great. And I do know that the show has a focus on building materials a little bit more so than just design trends, but I'm wondering, did you see any trends specifically pertaining to building materials?
Yes, and I think for some of these finishes, one trend is just durability and improving the product that you already have. Ice stone's been around for a while, and for those not familiar with it, it's countertop material made out of recycled glass and cement. And it's a really beautiful product, but like a lot of natural stones, it has to be sealed on site and then sealed to get resealed annually. And so the improvement they've made this year is that ice stone is now coming pre-sealed, and it's a permanent seal that's heat proof, stain proof, and it never has to be resealed. So making a product low maintenance, no maintenance really like that for consumers makes it more appealing to homeowners, and that's a great way to make it a more popular option.
And we definitely are seeing in our house research that there is a rise in manufactured stone and engineered stone type of products for countertops, a little bit more so than the natural stones like granite. So something like this ice stone, could be a great choice for homeowners. And as you said, there's no maintenance, so super convenient without that trade-off, because sometimes there are those trade-offs where something is convenient, it's less sustainable, but in
Hmm.
this way, there is a win-win. And then, since I know that you write so many articles for Houzz, I think our audience would love to know, have you seen any of these trends from Greenbuild in any projects that you've written about for Houzz, or do you think that we might see them more in the coming year?
Yes, I got so excited because I covered a project with John DeForest Architects where they used reclaimed snow fencing from Wyoming on the walls inside as very durable, beautifully patinaed product. And I'd seen it look gorgeous in these photos, but I'd never seen it up close and personal. I'd never seen photos of these actual fences in Wyoming, and it's pretty amazing. Um, there are over 50 million feet of snow fencing in Wyoming, and the state has to replace 3 million feet of it per year. So these guys at Centennial Woods are taking that wood from the state and upcycling it into something beautiful, whether it's siding, a backsplash, an accent wall. I was just really excited to see that one in person. And another product I really liked getting to get my hands on was luxury vinyl tile, otherwise known as LVT. I've seen it used beautifully in a lot of, especially basement projects and other uses. But sometimes you don't know if you believe the photos and if it looks as good as it does in the pictures on Houzz. Well, it does. With digital printing and the textures they can add to this flooring, it's really amazing. It really tricks the eye. And another interesting thing I learned from an LVT supplier called Urban Surfaces, they have a new product in the middle of the luxury vinyl tile. They use stone core. And what this means is you can just score this stuff with the utility knife and snap the cut open, so you're not having to go to a saw and getting all these harmful particulates in the air on the job site or that might get left over in the house when you're done, no matter how much you clean. So that was interesting to me. And I was really excited to see that product in person.
Well, that is certainly great to have that confirmation that the product does look as good in person as it does in the photo. I know sometimes photos can be deceiving, so great to hear that about the luxury vinyl tile. And then I know that, we've had a great discussion and some pros may already be thinking ahead to Greenbuild 2020. So if a pro is planning to attend this show next year, what sort of recommendations would you make? Do you have any tips that would be helpful for them at the show next year?
Yeah, I think a lot of pros that I met were there just to take their classes and get those education points and that sort of thing, and didn't even really bother with the expo floor much. do not miss the expo floor because it, like I just said, it makes such a difference to see and feel these materials in person, in some cases even sniff them. And you will also see great examples of projects where they have been used. You can talk to the reps about installation, durability, and maintenance, and really give yourself a good education in products and find some great new sources that are sustainable. I think any builder, architect, or interior designer who walks the floor there was finding great new sources.
Yes, I mean, we've seen so many incredible photos here that you've taken at this show to talk about these products. So um, definitely do not miss the expo floor. That is a great recommendation. And I know that we've covered everything kind of on our agenda. So Becky, do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share that we haven't touched on already?
Sure. You know, I mentioned some of the new online resources, and one thing that I've really been trying to concern myself with lately is construction waste. And there were some great resources I learned about on the expo floor. There's the Construction and Demolition Recycling Association, and they help contractors with the logistics of recycling materials like asphalt shingles, drywall, whatever is coming out of a demolition. And then there's CARE, which stands for the Carpet America Recovery Effort. They will help contractors make sure old carpeting is recycled and won't wind up in a landfill. They have a network across the country of resources to help with that. So that kind of networking is a wonderful thing that happens right on the expo floor, finding out about these resources and making connections with them.
Absolutely. And that sounds great for our audience to research further and hopefully they can incorporate that into an upcoming project. So
Yes.
that sounds like a great note to end on. Becky, thank you so much for sharing your experience at the show. I know that there are a lot of incredible trade shows across the country, but pros can't make it to all of them because they have too many projects that they're working on. So really appreciate your time coming to give us a recap of what they may have missed at this show.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. So thank you to our audience for tuning in, and we hope to see you at a future trade show.